Sunday, January 10. Cain and Abel. Question. Read Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through to 15. What does this tell us about how deeply ingrained sin had become? Genesis chapter 4, beginning at verse 1. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door. And its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you shall be on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth, and it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. At the birth of Cain, Eve was ecstatic. She fully believed that she had just given birth to the deliverer promised in Genesis 3:15. I have acquired a man from the Lord, Genesis 4, verse 1. The text, translated literally, could read, I have made a man, the Lord. At its basic level, it simply reveals that Eve thought she had delivered the one whom the Lord had promised in Genesis 3:15, when he said, And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Nothing is said of the joy of Cain's boyhood years and the novelty of new parents proudly enjoying the development of their first baby. The narrative jumps quickly to a second birth, and then to the two young men worshipping. However, as we so often see, differences over worship lead to tragedy. Question. Read Genesis chapter 3, verses 9 and 10, and chapter 4, verse 9. Compare Adam's reaction with Cain's reaction when God questioned them after each one sinned. What is similar? What is different? First of all, Genesis chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. Then the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, Where are you? So he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And Genesis 4, verse 9. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? Note the differences in Adam's emotions as compared with Cain's. Adam appears confused, frightened, and ashamed in verse 10. But Cain is angry in verse 5 of chapter 4, cynical and rebellious in verse 9. Instead of offering a weak excuse as Adam did, Cain tells a blatant untruth. However, out of the despair came a measure of hope and optimism. With the birth of Seth, Eve again thinks she has delivered the promised one in Genesis chapter 4, verse 25. And that reads, And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth. For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. The name Seth is from the word that means to place or to put, the same word used in Genesis 3:15 for a deliverer who would be put in place to challenge the serpent and crush its head. In a further parallel to Genesis 3:15, Eve describes her own new son as the seed to replace Abel. Thus, even amid so much despair and tragedy, and as the great controversy between good and evil continued to spread, people still clung to the hope of redemption. Without it, what do we have? And so to finish today, imagine the woe of Adam and Eve over the death of their son, which would have been bad enough if not for the fact that another son had killed him. Thus they lost two sons. How can we learn the hard lesson that sin has consequences far beyond the immediate sin itself?